All right, we are live. Jill, if you want to take it away.
Okay. Hi, my name is Jill Swarner, and I'm the Honors Program Coordinator at NCTC. Today, we're talking about the documentary Social Dilemma. I hope all of you have had the opportunity to see it or at least watch the trailer. If you have watched it, you know that it features a number of tech experts who currently or formerly work for social networking sites like Facebook and Twitter, or they work for companies like Google and Mozilla, and as well as Duran, who is the author of the textbook we're using this semester at NCTC for our English 1302 course. The name of Lanier's book is 10 Reasons for Deleting Your Social Media Accounts. So all of these tech experts and activists agree on one thing. We have a dangerous and growing dependence on social media. So whether you agree or disagree with that statement, we are glad that you're here to listen to our discussion, and we'll have some Q&A at the end. We do have a chat if you would like to put your questions there, and then we'll address those at the end of our discussion. Now I'm going to introduce you to our panel. Lisa Smart has taught English for NCTC since 2009, and she's been full-time here at NCTC since 2019. When she was an adjunct, she was chosen as Adjunct of the Year, and this semester she's teaching her first honors English course, and it's based on Lanier's work. Jennifer Duran teaches psychology at NCTC, and she's been working with honors students since her very first day as a full-time instructor at NCTC. She has taught honors psychology, and she's mentored many honors projects in the last 2 years. Byron Canula is a psychology major currently attending NCTC, and he plans to transfer to UNT for a Bachelor of Science in Psychology. He is a student of mindfulness-based cognitive therapy for the last 3 years, and he's managed multiple craft beer bars since 2015, and he still does that while he's a student here. He's currently enrolled in Lisa Smart's honors English class. Also in that class is our final panelist. His name is Anthony Ellman, and he's a top student in that course, and he enjoys communicating with others and helping them work through their issues and emotions. And he plans to earn a degree in social work, which I think is a great fit for his interest. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with our first question, and it is to Professor Smart and Professor Duran. What are your thoughts after watching Social Dilemma? Oh, I've got to unmute you, Lisa. Hold on. Let me see if I can do that. I think Elizabeth might have to unmute you. Oh, you can unmute
myself.
Okay, go ahead.
Anyway, well, I would say that my takeaway first off is you look at the title of it. It's called The Social Dilemma. What is the dilemma basically is that there are 3 billion people in the world that are forced to use these platforms that are not necessarily aligned with the greater good of people or society. It's more of a monetized, profit-driven based type program, if you will. I can remember for years and years thinking I was the customer if I was on Instagram or on Facebook, but we're not. So you have to ask yourself then, how do these companies make $500 billion in revenue? It's through advertisement. And I think the problem with that is they need us to be using social media as much as possible. They need us to be addicted, divided, polarized, manipulated, those types of things. And the more that we are, the more money they're going to make. I think this whole entire documentary is the place where we can start to have this conversation that these things are going on. I think we all sort of have this idea of things that are going on, that everything we're doing is being tracked, is being, documented so that they can manipulate us. We all think that we have a common reality or truth, but we don't. Literally, on our social media feeds, we each have our own screen that we get social media that affirms our beliefs that we already have. There's nothing that's coming in saying, hey, here's another alternative. And that is only meant to divide us further and further. And until we remove the idea of monetization and profiting, I think we're going to have this problem. But hopefully through having these conversations, we can come up and have another documentary called The Social Solution.
Oh, I love that. Social solution. Those are my thoughts exactly. I knew that I was being tracked. I knew that I was getting ad
Yeah.
pop-ups based on my, but like you, I saw myself as, the consumer and user and not the product that was being sold. That was what was most disturbing to me in watching the documentary. All right, Professor Duran, we'll give you a chance to respond.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I had so many thoughts after watching the film. I took a lot of notes, and I think I'm still working on wrapping my mind around a lot of what was said. I think my first reaction was a bit of panic, if I'm honest, because it felt like the film introduced a lot of very serious problems and not a lot of forthcoming realistic solutions, although I'm hopeful that we will be having a social solutions talk as well. The fact that we're talking, I think, is good news for sure. Like you guys, I think I knew that they were collecting information on us. But what I didn't know, what at least I didn't know, was how very targeted and engineered the process was in order to solely designed to increase the amount of time that we spend on the platforms. And so I think for me, even more than the data harvesting itself, it's the use of that information to systematically keep us engaged longer that is so troublesome. I think that this is a big issue for adults, but I think it's maybe even more of an issue for kids and for our young people who are possibly more vulnerable to some of the side effects that they mentioned of social media, things like self-esteem issues, body image issues, FOMO, just all of those issues that increase in severity the longer we spend on the platform or the different platforms. And so to me, I think it all boils down to the time that is lost. I looked up, I tried to find some data on exactly how much time we're talking about, and different studies had different figures, but it looked like 8-9 hours would be a pretty good estimate. I don't know if that agrees with what your students had mentioned, Lisa.
Yes.
And so I think as a society, we really have to ask, is that how we want our young people to spend half of their waking hours, right? If you sleep 8 hours, you have 16 left, and if half of that is on social media, must it not take away from things like academic development, face-to-face socialization, physical activity, any type of spiritual, musical, any other skills? I just feel like our kids are probably missing a lot by engaging with social media to this degree. And then from a psychological standpoint, the whole film was interesting. They laid out very clearly how operant conditioning, proven psychological techniques are used to increase the amount of time that we spend. And, when we post something on social media and we get likes, that equates to positive reinforcement. And positive reinforcement is extremely motivating to us. They kind of laid that out in the film as well. We very much need to be accepted by others, and we need to feel like we fit in. This was, I think, a very serious issue long ago. It was critical to survival long ago, but it's critical to our mental health today, and so we're driven to keep coming back to these social media platforms. And so, like I said, the fact that they're using psychologically proven principles to increase the amount of time that we spend, to me, that's the biggest deal. And I just feel like as a society, we have to wonder what that's going to look like over time.
And I think that that's certainly one of my main takeaways from Lanier's book as well, is that Pavlovian dog operant conditioning. And again, like Lisa said, I just felt like I was a consumer and I could look at my social media anytime I wanted to, and none of us wants to admit that we have an addiction, and even just to try to take baby steps. I know some people have taken the apps off their phone. I have not done that yet. Even though I've seen this documentary and I've read the book, I'm still not quite ready. But I think, like Lisa said, just having, and you said too, just having the conversation. Let's just talk about what's really going on right here. What's really going on, and that's maybe as far as I've gotten with it. So, okay, Byron and Anthony, we are getting to you now. So first, I really like to know about your honors English class and what your thoughts are on Lanier's book.
So far, I've really liked his book and the documentary. I do feel that my biggest issue with them is that they don't, for people who can't delete social media, like I have to use it for business purposes, they don't
Yep.
really give you ways to combat these issues. And that's my biggest issue with both of them. But the coursework has been good. I've learned a lot more about it, and I've really enjoyed it. Anthony and I did a podcast recently, and that was a lot of fun. Very interesting as well.
Tell us a little bit more about the podcast.
So yeah, we brought the owner of the Bearded Monk, Ben Easley, on. He is a pretty big name in Denton, and he uses social media all the time. I used to be the event coordinator for the bar that he owns, the Bearded Monk, and that's kind of how I started using social media a lot, and that's how he really got his business out there. Like when we first started opening up, everybody's like, "Oh, I've heard about y'all on social media." That was our main way to get our name out there. And it's definitely tough to open up a bar in Denton with so many around, so you had to stick out in a way, and his use of social media was that. So we kind of asked him on how he has a healthy relationship with it, and it all kind of just, boils down to realizing that it's not necessarily reality, social media, and trying to build a barrier between the computer world and the real world.
I think that's a great point, and I've said that many times to people that you're looking at your Facebook friends' media feed, and they're not putting. Well, some people put their struggles, but that's their fake family. That's their fake life. That's not. They're posting all the wonderful things, and so then there is that FOMO that I think we did all know about. But it's still hard. It's still we're only human. So if you're looking at someone on this fabulous vacation and you've been in lockdown for the last year. And then I also read about, there was some musical artist I was reading about, and they were talking about how he advanced his career, and that really the way he's advanced his career is that he's so good at social media. He's so good at managing and that. And I think you make a good point, Byron, that in the business world in 2021, you're not going to be successful much in anything if you don't have social media presence. So good point. Anthony?
I really enjoy the honors course. First and foremost, it introduced me to the book, which was a really interesting read, because a lot of the time, because I'm fresh out of high school, and a lot of the time, most high schoolers' experience with people telling us how bad social media is are people coming in, and we have this pep rallies, and no one really listens. So, like, I never really listen. Like, I as well didn't really listen. So, being able to really challenge myself and question the importance of like why are these apps so important to me in my life? And something else, so what, just like Jennifer said, how we sleep 8 hours a day and we only have 16 hours left. We only have 16 hours left. I believe that that most kids nowadays are using their technology past the point where like it consumes their time where they sleep, where they're supposed to be sleeping, where it's like it's kind of like you can basically call it an addict. They're addicted to it, and something that I fear for future generations is that they're going to be growing up with this technology, and they're going to be relying on it for like basic emotions such as like happiness and acceptance, and it's very different. It's almost like synthetic kind of emotions when you get it online as compared to real life. And I've seen images and videos of like toddlers with iPads, and it really worries me because they're starting at such a young age that when we try to teach them how dangerous this stuff is, it's going to be a lot more difficult because of how young they were taught that this is a good thing.
Those are all great points. I've heard your first point about how you've heard these dire warnings before about social media in high school. I'm hearing that a lot from people who are teaching the English 1302, that their students thought that this course and this book was just going to be more of that. Like, you have to be careful what you post because you're going to be looking for a job, and, don't put these kind of pictures on there. And, this is a different kind of argument. That's really not the argument. Like you said, it's more of a what this is doing to us psychologically and to our emotions and all of those things. So I think that's another common response that we're getting from students about reading it. For anybody, and this is for you guys who are out there listening to us, you can put your questions in the comments. How does social media add to or take away from your quality of life?
Are you asking us, Jill? I can answer.
Anybody can answer.
Yeah, I want to say something I found. I think from your quality of life, there are positive things about it. I'm not going to say that there aren't. To be able to connect during the pandemic. Even people that couldn't go to church, they were able to go to church online during the pandemic through social media, things like that. But I think at the end of the day, for me personally, there are times that I've just literally had to step away from social media. And I think one of the best quotes from the documentary, and I've also heard Tristan Harris, who was a part of Google, who he made a comment in the film. He said, he said that this is most telling about the way that things are set up. So long as a whale is worth more dead than alive, and a tree is worth more as lumber, we are worth more when we are addicted, outraged, polarized, and disinformed. And that is success to the industry, because then we have been psychologically manipulated and the goal has been met. So for me, I have really felt that through the elections, through the pandemic, that I just had to take a step back and be like, this is not healthy.
Yes. I've known many people who've taken a break. Yeah. And I have friends who put their post on Facebook and say, I'm leaving. I just want you to let you know I'm leaving. And then a month later, they're like, I'm back.
Every time.
So, yeah. I have put people on mute, or there's a term in Facebook where you hide their post for a month. Yeah, it's I can't, look at this. So that's about the extent. Anybody else on how you feel like your social media contributes or takes away from your quality of life?
Well, me personally, I used to use social media avidly, because it was a place for me to talk about my interests and meet other people.
Yeah.
But soon it started to become maybe something I do for maybe a couple hours to something I do for the majority of my day.
Right.
It started to take I would start prioritizing it over other things that were more important than it.
Good point. Yeah. That's why I had to take the TikTok app off my phone. I lost 8 hours one day, but it was an entertaining 8 hours. Yeah. So
I heard it's very addicting. That is extremely addicting.
And they're all so good. And they're really good. Okay. Lanier says in his book, 10 Reasons to Delete Your Social Media Accounts, that social media brings out the worst in him. How can we act with empathy and positivity when we are online? He says he used a strong term, but he said it basically makes him a jerk, because he started blogging and he would read the comments to his blogs and he just couldn't let them go. He had to respond. And I have friends that way too. They have to respond, to their detriment often. So how do you think we can act with empathy and positivity when we are online and not be jerks?
I think you first have to be empathetic towards yourself, right? You have to realize that, when you do get worked up, you have to, be like, why am I getting worked up? Look within yourself. And then, only then can you start to be empathetic towards other people.
And do you think sometimes people are trying to get a reaction out of you? Do you think that's why sometimes people do put the things that they do because they want people to react?
Yeah, or it could be that, or there's a number of things. They could just be having a bad day at the time.
Sure.
And they need to try to feel self gratification by putting somebody else down. So, but if he can be, I think he could be empathetic online if he starts to have some empathy towards himself and be okay that it's okay to be angry, but just because you're angry, you don't have to react upon it. So once we start kind of building that cushion, we could start to be more empathetic online, I think.
Good. Anybody else?
Well,
I think. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. I caution my kids just never to type anything that you wouldn't say if the person was right in front of you, because I just think that's the whole online dynamic is people are so free to say any thought that comes into their mind. And I think there are some individuals who spend a lot of time doing that. So yeah, that's what I tell my kiddos. Just make sure that, anything you type, you would say right to them. And if it's questionable at all, don't send it, because it's much easier to think about it and send it later than to send it and not ever be able to take it back. So that's my best advice.
I think that's great. I know I've been taught that with emails, okay, here's a comment. I think social media increases the highs of being a teenager and also the lows. Have a negative, the new highs are no match for the new lows. Oh, that's a strong statement. Yeah, I think so. I think her point is that whatever positive reinforcement we're getting from the likes, when you post something, you get no like, how bad you feel when you post and nobody responds, then that is no equal for the high that you get from or from, as Anthony said, genuine human interaction, as opposed to these synthetic made up interactions. It really doesn't take long for somebody to click on the like. We get way too worked up about getting those because it really is not a lot of effort. But what Jennifer was saying about the typing it but take your time. I think most of us have been told when you're angry and you type up that email, the best thing to do is hit delete or wait and sleep on it and send it the next day. And I've regretfully sent some of those emails before. So it always takes time and think about it. And more often than not, you just delete it, which is good. But you can't delete it after you put it, out there in the internet world. Okay.
That's
last
always
question.
my husband's advice. He's always telling me, like sometimes I'll go in and defend someone and somehow I end up in some debate on social media. And he was like, Lisa, delete that. He's like, no one's going to show up at your door and give you a trophy and say, oh, look, Lisa won the internet today. So
yeah, he's right.
I have never got a trophy.
And Lisa, you already touched on this. I think you were referring to this quote, and just if anybody else wants to respond to this before we go to the Q&A, as long as social media companies profit from outrage, I think you said that one, confusion, addiction, and depression, our well-being and democracy will continue to be at risk. It's time to change that. And this is a statement from the Center for Humane Technology. So they have a website. The Social Dilemma has a great website, and I've signed up. They send me updates. Apparently, they're testifying in Congress. Some of these tech giants are about their responsibility for some of the things that have happened in politics or the Capitol. I think that their contribution to the charge on the Capitol. And of course, I've always been an advocate of free speech. So when this came about, of course, we never had anything like Facebook before. And so the founders said, oh, it's freedom of speech. But then are there limits to that? And certainly there have always been limits to freedom of speech where you couldn't go into a crowded movie theater and yell fire. And so the question is that what this is? Okay. So I am going to open it up to Q&A. I see, I have several things. Oh, thank you, Jocelyn. She was telling me what it's called when you put someone on sleep. It's called unfollow. So, and I have unfollowed a few people, but there's also another option if you don't want it to be that drastic where you can if you know what that term is, where you put them on
You
sleep.
put them on
or something
snooze for 30 days. You snooze them for 30 days.
Snooze. Okay, you snooze for
That's what I
30
do.
days. Oh, okay. So you don't unfriend them, but you don't see their posts anymore. Thank you. Thanks for that. And then Reagan had the comment about the highs and lows, and that the highs are not worth the lows.
Well, and I think that a lot of that also has to do with, and kind of back to Anthony's statement earlier, when you start to rely on outside sources for happiness, you're eventually going to feel like crap.
Empty.
Yeah, it's not going to ever fulfill that need.
And here's another comment along the same thing. I think one of the biggest issues is that the only metric of success is the quantity of interactions, like the number of likes. So you get 100 likes. Is my goal, by the way, and not the quality. So are you really having quality interaction there? And so if you get a comment instead of a like, I want them to comment and like. So I want to count in my likes as well. But are you really having, because I also teach interpersonal communication, which is quality interaction between two people. And, that's not quality when somebody just puts a quote or a GIF or, a smiley face or whatever. That's really not a quality. Okay, thank you all for your questions and comments. And I want to thank our panelists. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on and talk about this. Thank you, Elizabeth, for showing your face. Elizabeth, thank you for setting all of this up and for promoting it. And we want to thank Demi and Shannon and Ski and everyone in the PR department for helping us. They're also helping us promote some of our upcoming honors events. And let me tell you what those are. So we mentioned Duran Lanier several times, that he's the author of the book that we're using in 1302, 10 Arguments for Deleting Your Social Media Accounts. He was going to come on campus and give a presentation. Because of the pandemic, he was not able to come in person. So the next best thing is Zoom. And so his Zoom interview is going to be a week from today on April 7th at 6:30. And Dr. Kevin Eubanks, who is part of the honors program in the English department, is going to interview him. It is password protected, so you'll have to email me at jswarner@nctc.edu to get that password. Then the next week, Ski Sullivan, who's our Senior Director of PR and Marketing at NCTC, he kind of is going to probably address some of the things you talked about, Byron, that, social dilemma. Social media has its drawbacks, but you got to have it. NCTC uses it, and we have to use it to reach our students. So, but how can we use it ethically? And so that is on the April 14th at 4. And then totally unrelated to anything to do with social media or Lanier or this class or anything, is something else that the honors program has started in the fall. Missy Blankenship said, hey, why don't we do an NCTC Common Read? So in the fall, we did Think Like a Freak. And in the spring, we're doing a book called Bad Blood. And we're going to do a book review of that on April 20th at 6. I have copies of the book. I have 6 copies left. If you want one, email me at jswarner@nctc.edu, and I'll send you the link to sign up for that. There's my email. Thank you. We're having a study abroad Q&A. If you are ready to travel, if you are tired of being in the lockdown and you want to travel next year, we are going to Japan and we're going to Berlin. And the Japan trip had to be postponed from last year. We already had a big group going. And so that has been rescheduled. We're going to do a little study abroad Q&A for our students. We always have a lot of questions about, is it semester long? We don't do semester long. Most of our trips are about 10 days. We go through the oldest company for student travel called EF Tours. They're going to have a representative there at our Q&A on the 4th. So if you don't have plans for May the 4th be with you, make plans to attend our study abroad Q&A. You can wear your Star Wars outfit if you want to. So that's May the 4th at 4. If you're interested in finding out more about the honors program and taking an honors course like Anthony and Byron were in, or getting honors credit for a course that you're already planning to take in the fall, email me at jillswarner Yes, and I will give you information. I can put you in contact with some other students who have participated in honors. I can tell you about the scholarship opportunities and just why it's a really good idea for you to participate in honors at NCTC. And finally, when we decided to do this session, I asked the college to buy some Netflix gift cards for students who don't have Netflix. And I'm having trouble giving them away. So if you want one of these, I'm ready to get rid of these. Email me at jswarner@nctc.edu and I will send you a Netflix gift card. It's only $15. Everyone I've talked to already has a Netflix subscription, which is another topic for another day. But if you don't have one, or if there's something you want to purchase on Netflix, $15 gift card. So thank you all so very much.
Thank you.